Have you ever seen a city turn on one of its own? Not with rage, not with outrage, but with something far more cutting: humor. That razor-thin line between mockery and message. That's exactly what happened one crisp December morning in Los Angeles, when a single-window display on Robertson Boulevard stopped people in their tracks and put Meghan Markle back at the center of a storm she didn't see coming. Here's the question that hit everyone who walked by Kitson that day. How did Meghan Markle, the once celebrated Duchess who left London in search of peace, end up plastered on a Christmas-themed mock magazine cover labeled Villain of the Year and crowned with a Santa hat that boldly read Montecito Diva? Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. And maybe the better question is this: why did it sting so much? Because let's be honest, Meghan has been called many things. Hollywood darling, royal rebel, humanitarian, survivor, storyteller, controversial figure. But this, Villain of the Year, displayed not by a gossip tabloid, not by an internet troll, but by a trendy boutique known for its playful yet provocative windows? That's different. And Los Angeles knew it. People stood in front of that window the way tourists stare at the Hollywood Walk of Fame, curious, amused, confused, and just a little stunned. Phones came out. Videos were recorded. Comments poured in. Some laughed. Some shook their heads. Some whispered that maybe Kitson went too far this time. Others said the store was only saying what many people were thinking but wouldn't dare voice. But before we dive into the reactions, let's rewind for a moment. Because nothing about this display happened by accident. Kitson's holiday hypocrisy window has a legacy all its own. And it's a legacy built on calling out public figures who preach one thing, perform another, and hope no one notices the contradiction. Spoiler: Kitson always notices. The store launched the tradition back in 2020. A year of chaos. A year of contradictions. A year when celebrities kept telling regular people to stay home, stay still, stay silent, while living in mansions with gyms, theaters, and personal chefs. Kitson seized the irony, framed it, and placed it squarely in its windows. And like clockwork, the display went viral. So when Meghan Markle appeared in the 2025 edition of the gallery, sandwiched between other so-called holiday hypocrites, it wasn't just a jab. It was a statement, one that's been building for years. But here's the twist. Meghan didn't appear with a simple label. She didn't get a plain caption. No, she got the full treatment. A mocked-up, glossy magazine cover positioned right at eye level. Her image topped with a Santa hat stamped with Montecito Diva in bold letters. Slogans around her hinting at contrast between messaging and lifestyle. It was dramatic. It was pointed. And it was undeniably meant to provoke. But why her? Why now? Why this year? That's where things get interesting. This wasn't about politics. It wasn't about royalty. It wasn't even about Meghan's projects, interviews, or appearances, according to the boutique's creative team, who later spoke to curious shoppers. The choice was about themes, narratives, cultural moments, public conversations that had reached their boiling point. Kitson loves a spotlight. Los Angeles loves drama. Meghan Markle, somehow, has become both. Think about it. Meghan left the royal family in a blaze of global attention. Every step she's taken since, from interviews to documentaries to business ventures, has been analyzed with forensic intensity. Supporters admire her outspokenness. Critics question her authenticity. The media amplifies both sides. And somewhere in that tug-of-war, perception shifted. Not overnight. Not instantly. But gradually. A charity speech misinterpreted here. A glam photoshoot there. A headline, a rumor, a contradiction, real or imagined, blending together in the public consciousness. Until suddenly the Montecito Duchess wasn't simply a figure people had opinions about. She became something else, a cultural Rorschach test. People didn't just react to Meghan. They projected onto her. And that's how she ended up in the window. Not just as a person, but as a symbol. But if you think this display was simply meant to poke fun at her, think again. Kitson's holiday hypocrisy series has never been purely comedic. It's satire with teeth. It's commentary disguised as decoration. It's the kind of artistic protest that toes the line between entertainment and confrontation. And this year, according to a staffer who reportedly helped assemble the display, the theme was social contradictions. The gap between message and reality. The modern obsession with branding oneself as inspirational while living a life that looks very different behind the curtain. That clue alone made people lean in. Because while Meghan's supporters insist she strives to do good, her critics believe she has become the face of celebrity self-branding gone too far. But the real twist? She wasn't chosen because of some single scandal. Not because of a headline. Not because of a documentary. Not because of a statement she made. Kitson chose her because of a pattern. Consistency is everything to the store's creative team. If someone's message doesn't match their image, if their actions undermine their words, if their public persona contradicts their private luxury, then they make the list. That's why the gallery is called Holiday Hypocrites. It's a rough title. A bold one. The kind that gets attention whether you like it or not. But the artists behind it call it accurate. And Meghan's mock magazine cover? That was their centerpiece. The crown jewel. The most talked about part of the display. Because it captured something people felt but couldn't articulate. The sense that Meghan's image and Meghan's messaging have drifted further apart over time. Still, here's something most viewers didn't know. Kitson's displays always contain hidden meanings. Easter eggs. Little details embedded into the artwork that reveal the deeper theme. And one of those details, something almost no one noticed, was placed right next to Meghan's image. A single line, a small symbol, a nod to something much bigger than a Santa hat or a catchy label. But we're not there yet. Before we get to the hidden message, before we explore the reactions that erupted across Los Angeles, before we uncover why Meghan's own team reportedly took notice, we need to understand how one display became a cultural moment. And it starts with timing. December is not just a holiday season in LA. It's a branding season, a PR season, a season where celebrities release year-end messages, charities push campaigns, and influencers post festive photos meant to radiate warmth. Against that backdrop, a window display mocking hypocrisy hits much harder than it would at any other time of year. It's not random. It's strategic. And when Meghan's glossy, stylized image appeared between the twinkling lights and metallic ornaments, the effect was jarring. Intentional. Designed to make passers-by question how image-making and honesty coexist in a world obsessed with appearances. So where does this story go next? Because right now, we've only scratched the surface. We've only set the stage. We've only opened the door to a larger conversation about celebrity culture, public perception, and the strange journey Meghan Markle continues to navigate. A journey that somehow led her from a royal wedding watched by billions to a holiday window calling her a diva. And the wildest part? This wasn't even the most controversial element of the display. That comes next. The detail most people missed. The clue that made the display go from provocative to downright shocking. The message that turned a holiday joke into something much deeper. Have you ever wondered what it takes for a single boutique in Los Angeles to provoke the city, to make headlines, spark debate, and essentially dictate cultural conversation for a few viral days? Not a fashion magazine, not TMZ, not even the late-night talk shows. Just a store. A store with a reputation for being bold, cheeky, and unafraid to push boundaries. That store is Kitson. And in 2025, Kitson put Meghan Markle at the very center of its most provocative holiday display yet. It starts with location. Robertson Boulevard sits between Beverly Hills and West Hollywood, an area already buzzing with influence, status, and celebrity. Walking down the street, you're immersed in high-end fashion boutiques, sleek cafes, and the occasional paparazzi snapping photos of the latest stars. But Kitson isn't just another shop. From the moment you step in, you feel a pulse. A sense that this place doesn't just sell merchandise, it crafts stories, provokes opinions, and sometimes outright mocks the absurdity of celebrity culture. Kitson's team has a history of daring displays. Their Holiday Hypocrisy series began in 2020 and immediately made waves. Celebrities, influencers, and socialites found themselves immortalized in window mockery, often with biting wit. But what made the gallery famous wasn't the humor alone, it was the precision. The designers didn't just slap labels on people, they dissected their public actions, their statements, their contradictions. It was investigative satire, wrapped in glitter, twinkle lights, and festive decor. By 2025, the tradition had evolved. The holiday window wasn't simply decorative, it was a statement, a mirror reflecting the perceived inconsistencies of public figures. And that year, Meghan Markle wasn't just a participant. She was the centerpiece. A mock magazine cover featured her in a Santa hat emblazoned with the words Montecito Diva, her image framed in bold colors designed to draw attention and, yes, provoke conversation. But why Meghan? After all, dozens of celebrities walk down Robertson Boulevard. They attend gala openings, post on Instagram, or support charitable causes. Yet Kitson singled her out. The answer lies in perception, history, and what the boutique calls narrative resonance. In their eyes, Meghan represents the perfect mix of influence, visibility, and contradiction, a public figure whose messaging and lifestyle provide fertile ground for commentary. Sources close to Kitson reveal that the decision wasn't made lightly. There were debates, sketches, and multiple drafts before the final concept. One employee, speaking anonymously, described it as a meticulous process. We wanted to capture the essence of someone who says one thing and does another. Not as an attack, but as a reflection of the conversations people are having about them every day. And Meghan, according to insiders, fit that description. From high-profile interviews to high-budget projects, her public persona has consistently been under scrutiny. Some call her a humanitarian icon. Others see a media-savvy figure skilled at controlling narrative. In Kitson's eyes, she embodies both the admiration and criticism that makes a holiday hypocrite truly compelling. But it wasn't just about her image. The boutique also considered timing. The holidays are a season of reflection, generosity, and spectacle. Placing Meghan in a festive, yet satirical display created a tension impossible to ignore. The juxtaposition of Christmas cheer with the biting label Villain of the Year made passers-by stop, look, and ask questions. And that's exactly what the store wanted. Inside Kitson, the design process was intensive. Teams gathered around mood boards, analyzing photographs, public appearances, and media coverage. One designer noted, "We look for contradictions. If someone talks about simplicity but lives extravagantly, or if they preach transparency while carefully curating their public image, it makes for a compelling story." Meghan's public journey, from royal duties to Hollywood ventures, checked those boxes in multiple ways. The Santa hat, for instance, wasn't chosen at random. It symbolized holiday cheer, yes, but also the idea of performance. The hat is festive, inviting, yet incongruous when paired with a title like Montecito Diva. Kitson's creative team described it as a visual metaphor, public appearance versus private narrative. It was playful, but it cut deep, especially for someone whose public persona is so meticulously managed. Adding to the impact, the mock magazine cover included subtle references to Meghan's high-profile statements, philanthropic projects, and media narratives. To the casual observer, it might look like a simple holiday joke, but to those paying attention, it was layered commentary. Every color choice, font, and placement was intentional. Each element of the display was crafted to provoke thought, discussion, and debate. What makes Kitson's approach unique is the combination of humor and insight. Anyone can mock a celebrity, but Kitson's displays are more like social experiments. They test public sentiment, challenge assumptions, and reveal the contradictions that people might be reluctant to discuss openly. By placing Meghan at the center, Kitson invited the public to examine not just her actions, but the broader questions about fame, authenticity, and influence. And it worked. The reactions were immediate and varied. Tourists stopped to take photos, social media accounts reposted the images, and local news outlets covered the display within hours. Comments ranged from laughter to outrage, with some arguing the boutique went too far and others praising the audacity of the statement. It became a viral moment, with Meghan once again at the center of global attention, but this time in a context far different from a royal wedding or charity gala. Yet the story doesn't end with public reaction. Inside Kitson, staff members were already anticipating the next wave, Meghan's team noticing the display. According to insiders, there was concern about potential PR fallout, calls from publicists, or requests for adjustments. But Kitson, known for standing firm, had prepared for this. The boutique's philosophy is simple. If your message is strong and your presentation is thoughtful, you withstand scrutiny. Kitson's audacity also lies in its consistency. Every year, the holiday hypocrisy window delivers a similar shock. It holds up a mirror to celebrity culture, asking the public to examine contradictions. And by featuring Meghan, the store continued a tradition that merges artistry, satire, and social commentary in a single, visually arresting moment. But there's another layer that few outside the boutique understand. Kitson doesn't just select celebrities randomly. The choice of Meghan was also influenced by cultural conversations simmering in Hollywood and beyond. Discussions about privilege, authenticity, and media representation have been ongoing. Meghan, as a figure straddling royalty and celebrity, naturally embodies these debates. She becomes a focal point for a story that's part cultural critique, part holiday spectacle, and entirely irresistible to the public eye. And while many may see the window as a humorous jab, there's a subtle gravity to it. Kitson's displays challenge viewers to consider the nature of image-making, the fragility of reputation, and the fine line between admiration and critique. By choosing Meghan, the boutique highlighted tensions that extend far beyond fashion or entertainment, tensions rooted in social expectations, media narratives, and public scrutiny. Yet for Meghan, the consequences are complex. To supporters, the window might seem trivial or unfair. To critics, it confirms suspicions and amplifies their narratives. And for the casual observer, it's a lesson in how symbolism, humor, and timing can converge to create a cultural moment that reverberates far beyond the street it inhabits. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect is not the public response, nor the artistic intention, nor even the boldness of placing Meghan at the center. It's the fact that Kitson, a single boutique in Los Angeles, has the power to spark discussion, dominate headlines, and frame cultural perception, all through the clever placement of one celebrity in one window. And as the display went up, one question hovered over Robertson Boulevard like the winter chill. How would Meghan Markle respond? Would her team issue a statement? Ignore it? Attempt to spin the narrative? What does it take to become a holiday hypocrite in Los Angeles? To be immortalized in a glittering storefront, scrutinized by passers-by, photographed by tourists, and discussed on every social media platform? Kitson, the boutique with a flair for provocation, has a very specific formula, one that mixes creativity, cultural commentary, and just the right touch of cruelty. And in 2025, Meghan Markle found herself right at the heart of it. The holiday hypocrisy gallery didn't appear overnight. Its origins trace back to 2020, a year that was chaotic in every conceivable way. Celebrity culture was being re-examined through the lens of public health crises, social movements, and heightened media scrutiny. Kitson noticed the contradictions, stars preaching environmental responsibility while jetting across continents, influencers advocating minimalism while living in multi-million-dollar estates, philanthropists boasting about charitable work while entangled in scandal. The boutique's creative team saw an opportunity. They would create a window display that not only reflected the absurdity of these contradictions, but also celebrated the art of cultural critique. The concept was simple yet daring. A holiday gallery highlighting those whose words and actions didn't align, the so-called holiday hypocrites. It was satire, but it had bite. Behind the scenes, the creation of each year's gallery is a meticulous process. It begins months in advance, with mood boards, sketches, and exhaustive research. Staff pore over media coverage, interviews, social media feeds, and public appearances. Each potential subject is evaluated based on a set of criteria: visibility, influence, perceived contradictions, and, most importantly, narrative resonance. The aim is to feature individuals whose public personas are ripe for commentary, those who spark conversations about authenticity, image, and societal expectations. When Meghan Markle was selected for the 2025 gallery, it wasn't arbitrary. Designers recognized that her journey, from British royalty to Los Angeles socialite, from global humanitarian to Hollywood entrepreneur, offered a wealth of material. Her public statements about equality, sustainability, and personal growth were well documented. Her lifestyle, however, painted a picture of luxury, visibility, and strategic branding. For Kitson, this juxtaposition was irresistible. The design phase is intensive. Artists and stylists experiment with composition, color schemes, typography, and props. Meghan's mock magazine cover underwent multiple iterations. The team experimented with different Santa hats, testing colors, size, and placement to ensure the label Montecito Diva would be immediately legible yet visually integrated into the overall display. Every line, every shadow, every glint of light was considered. The aim was to create a piece that was at once festive, humorous, and sharp in its commentary. Beyond the visual design, Kitson's team incorporates symbolism and subtle references into the display. The Santa hat wasn't just a festive accessory. It was a metaphor for performance, for public cheer masking private contradictions. Typography choices emphasized words in ways that underscored irony. Staff members recall long nights debating Meghan's placement in the gallery. She had to be the centerpiece, one designer said. Her image had to draw the eye first, before people noticed the surrounding elements. It's like a story unfolding as you walk along the window. Your attention starts with her, then you notice the other figures, the Easter eggs, the commentary hidden in plain sight. The process also included feedback from anonymous consultants who specialize in media analysis. These consultants helped identify the most resonant contradictions in Meghan's public persona. They examined her interviews, speeches, philanthropic projects, and social media campaigns. They highlighted moments where her words and actions seemed to diverge. Each insight informed design choices, from captions to visual metaphors, ensuring that the display was both pointed and layered. But Kitson's strategy isn't only about critique, it's about engagement. The display needed to provoke thought, spark discussion, and encourage interaction. Staff positioned elements at eye level for pedestrians, incorporated space for photographs, and designed angles that would look compelling on video for social media. The goal was virality, but with substance, a window that would linger in viewers' minds long after they passed by. Once Meghan's mock magazine cover was finalized, it was placed alongside other celebrities featured in the Holiday Hypocrites gallery. Each figure had a carefully chosen prop, label, or accessory reflecting their perceived contradictions. But Meghan's display was the most complex. It combined visual irony, textual commentary, and subtle allusions to her lifestyle choices, public statements, and media portrayals. The result was a multi-layered piece that could be appreciated at multiple levels. Casual amusement for tourists, cultural critique for media-savvy observers, and a nuanced message for those paying attention to symbolism. And then there was timing. The holiday season is a period when public attention is heightened. People are walking the streets, shopping for gifts, and scrolling social media for festive content. By unveiling the display in December, Kitson maximized visibility. Meghan's image would be photographed, shared, and discussed. And the holiday context added a layer of irony. After all, labeling someone a villain during a season of goodwill carries dramatic weight. Once the display was installed, Kitson prepared for reactions. Past iterations of the gallery had produced viral moments, ranging from laughter to outrage. Staff expected the same for Meghan. But what they didn't anticipate was just how quickly the public would engage, and how intensely. Within hours of the unveiling, photos and videos of Meghan's mock magazine cover were circulating online. Comments poured in, dissecting her pose, her expression, and the words emblazoned on her Santa hat. The boutique's gamble had paid off. The display was commanding attention, sparking conversation, and cementing its place as a cultural touchstone. The process of creating the gallery also revealed something about Los Angeles culture itself. The city thrives on visibility, on storytelling, and on the complex interplay between image and reality. Kitson understood this. By crafting a display that was visually striking and thematically rich, they tapped into the city's collective consciousness. Meghan's image became more than decoration. It was commentary, art, and provocation all at once. Finally, the gallery's creation underscores the power of storytelling in visual media. Kitson's designers didn't just want to mock celebrities. They wanted to tell stories about the gap between perception and reality. Meghan's journey, with all its public scrutiny, perfectly embodied that narrative. The display invited viewers to question what they know about her, to consider the broader implications of fame, and to reflect on the nature of authenticity in a world obsessed with appearances. And yet, even with all the thought, planning, and symbolism, there was one element that remained intentionally ambiguous. something subtle, almost hidden, that only attentive viewers would notice. This detail hinted at a deeper commentary, a message that would resonate long after the holiday season ended. How do you turn a simple holiday accessory into a symbol of scrutiny, satire, and subtle scandal? That was the challenge Kitson faced in 2025 when crafting the centerpiece of their holiday hypocrisy gallery. For Meghan Markle, it meant that something as innocent as a Santa hat would become the focal point of a public conversation that spanned Los Angeles, social media, and international gossip columns. At first glance, the hat looks harmless. Red velvet, white trim, classic Christmas style, the kind you might find in every household during the holiday season. On anyone else, it might be festive, cheerful, even endearing. But placed atop Meghan's image, emblazoned with the words Montecito Diva, it transformed into something far more layered. It became a visual shorthand for commentary on public persona, lifestyle, and perceived contradictions. To understand why this accessory carried such weight, you have to look at the context. Meghan, once celebrated as a royal who championed compassion, humanitarian causes, and social equity, now exists in a world where every public appearance, statement, and outfit is dissected with intense scrutiny. From her high-profile interviews to charity initiatives, from Netflix productions to private events in Montecito, the public eye tracks her every move. That scrutiny makes symbolism, like a Santa hat in a carefully curated window display, resonate with amplified effect. Inside Kitson, designers debated the hat for hours. Color, size, tilt, and typography were all analyzed. Should it sit straight on her head or at a jaunty angle? Would the text overlay distract from the visual impact of her face? Could a simple festive accessory carry the punch necessary to convey irony? The answer came after multiple iterations. It could, if executed with precision. The Santa hat, when combined with the Montecito Diva label, created contrast. And contrast is at the heart of Kitson's satire. On one hand, it references warmth, generosity, and the spirit of giving associated with Christmas. On the other, it calls attention to perceived extravagance, public messaging, and media-managed persona. For viewers, the juxtaposition is immediate. Holiday cheer placed in conversation with celebrity scrutiny, playful decoration intertwined with biting critique. Public reaction proved how powerful a symbol could be. Within hours of the display going live, social media users noticed the hat first. Some shared images captioned with humor. Even Santa couldn't handle this diva energy. Others critiqued the message, debating whether it was fair to brand someone a villain in a holiday setting. The contrast between the festive imagery and pointed commentary sparked discussions that ranged from lighthearted memes to serious analysis about public expectations of celebrities. But Kitson's team knew that impact wasn't just about public perception. The hat was also designed to make insiders take notice. Those who follow Hollywood culture, PR strategies, and celebrity branding. The clever placement of a simple, recognizable accessory atop a high-profile figure sends a signal. Everything is intentional. Every detail communicates meaning. And in this case, the hat was a signal that Meghan's curated image, while polished and glamorous, was not immune to public commentary. The design also contained subtle visual cues meant to resonate with attentive viewers. For instance, the tilt of the hat suggested a playful arrogance, an energy that hints at celebrity entitlement, a gesture recognizable to those familiar with high-profile image management. Meanwhile, the size and boldness of the Montecito Diva text reinforced the idea that this was not a casual observation, but a pointed declaration. Every pixel, shadow, and line of the hat's design contributed to the narrative. Of course, not everyone interpreted it the same way. Some argued that calling attention to an accessory was trivial, that the display was overreaching, even unfair. Others recognized the genius. The hat served as a metaphor, a focal point that encapsulated the complex relationship between public image and reality. In Los Angeles, where celebrity perception is currency, the Santa hat became a symbol of scrutiny, debate, and cultural resonance. And then there was the irony. Meghan, who had cultivated a global image of poise, intelligence, and intentionality, was now the subject of visual satire. The Santa hat, typically a sign of warmth, generosity, and festive cheer, had been repurposed to question authenticity and public persona. The contrast between intended symbolism and public interpretation is part of what made Kitson's display so effective. What made the controversy even more compelling was that the hat didn't exist in isolation. It interacted with other elements of the window, the magazine-style framing, the text, the surrounding decor. Together, these elements created a layered commentary, a visual essay on public perception, celebrity behavior, and societal expectations. Every passerby, from casual tourist to devoted fan, could interpret the message differently, yet the tension remained unmistakable. Insiders described the debate around the hat as one of the most strategic choices in the gallery's history. A staffer explained, "We spent more time on the hat than anything else. It seems small, but it had to carry the weight of the critique without overpowering the image. It's subtle, but powerful, and the public responded exactly the way we anticipated." The Santa hat also sparked commentary about privilege and lifestyle. Placing a luxurious, highly publicized figure under a festive accessory designed for mass appeal created a visual commentary on accessibility versus exclusivity. Meghan's image, high-gloss and polished, contrasted sharply with the simplicity and universality of a classic Santa hat, a stark juxtaposition that magnified perceived contradictions in her public persona. Online discussions exploded. Social media users dissected every angle: the angle of the hat, the boldness of the text, the expression on Meghan's face. Some argued the display was cruel, an unnecessary attack on a figure already scrutinized globally. Others lauded Kitson for its audacity, for daring to turn a simple festive item into a commentary on celebrity culture. The display became a viral moment, not for its humor alone, but for the layered message embedded in one small, recognizable accessory. Even local media picked up on it. Articles described the hat as iconic, controversial, and provocative. Some suggested that the display revealed an undercurrent of tension between Meghan's public messaging and perceived lifestyle. Others speculated about potential reactions from her team or Hollywood insiders, adding to the suspense. And in Montecito, whispers began. Did Meghan notice? Would there be a response? Kitson, however, had anticipated every scenario. The boutique's philosophy is simple: a well-crafted visual statement speaks louder than any press release. By choosing the Santa hat as a focal point, they ensured that viewers would pause, analyze, and discuss exactly what the gallery aimed to achieve. The display, and the hat specifically, became a conversation starter, a symbol, and a cultural moment in a single stroke. Yet, there was another layer most people didn't notice. A hidden message, subtle and almost invisible, embedded in the design. One element of the hat, a small fold in the fabric, a shadow, hinted at a deeper critique, a commentary on image management, public perception, and the fine line between admiration and scrutiny. Only those who looked closely could catch it, but its presence elevated the display from playful satire to sophisticated commentary. And so, the Santa hat became much more than a holiday accessory. It was a tool of cultural reflection, a symbol of irony, and a catalyst for debate. It encapsulated everything Kitson's holiday hypocrisy gallery stood for: the blending of humor, critique, and visual storytelling. Have you ever paused to think about how a few words can define a public figure, for better or worse? In Kitson's 2025 holiday hypocrisy gallery, the words Montecito Diva were emblazoned boldly across Meghan Markle's mock magazine cover, capturing attention, provoking debate, and instantly becoming the talk of Los Angeles. But how did this particular label come to be? And why did it resonate so powerfully? It starts with Montecito itself. Nestled along California's sun-kissed coastline, the town is synonymous with luxury, privacy, and exclusivity. Celebrities flock there for sprawling estates, ocean views, and a sense of anonymity that Hollywood itself cannot offer. The name Montecito evokes a world of privilege and glamour, a lifestyle far removed from the ordinary. It's a place where million-dollar mansions sit behind guarded gates, where private events are whispered about in tabloids, and where celebrity culture thrives in quiet intensity. For Meghan, Montecito became more than a residence. It became part of her public narrative. Since moving there, her life has been chronicled in subtle ways, Through media glimpses of charity events, paparazzi photos near her estate, and the occasional high-profile visit. To the public, the name conjures images of opulence, leisure, and influence. It also highlights a contrast. Meghan, once a working royal in London, now living in one of the most elite neighborhoods in America. That contrast is precisely what Kitson sought to capture. The word diva, meanwhile, carries its own weight. In popular culture, it evokes someone commanding, assertive, and unafraid to assert their presence. Often it implies extravagance, self-assurance, and sometimes difficulty in interpersonal dynamics. It can be playful, ironic, or cutting, depending on context. By pairing diva with Montecito, Kitson created a label that was immediately recognizable, charged with meaning, and designed to spark discussion. Inside Kitson, the creative team spent weeks debating the right phrasing. They wanted a term that was short, punchy, and memorable, yet capable of conveying critique without being overtly aggressive. Montecito Diva emerged after multiple drafts, sketches, and brainstorming sessions. Designers described it as a perfect synthesis. It linked Meghan's geographic association with Montecito to perceptions of celebrity behavior, privilege, and visibility, all while keeping a playful, ironic tone appropriate for a holiday display. The origins of the label were also influenced by media narratives surrounding Meghan's post-royal life. Headlines had chronicled her move to California, her lifestyle choices, and her ventures into media and philanthropy. Some coverage painted her as strategic, media-savvy, and highly aware of image management. Others highlighted perceived contradictions between her messaging and public appearances. Kitson distilled these complex narratives into two words that captured the essence of public perception: Montecito Diva. Interestingly, the label isn't just about critique. It also functions as commentary on celebrity branding itself. Meghan, like many high-profile figures, is acutely aware of the importance of public image. Her team manages appearances, messaging, and media engagement with precision. The label Montecito Diva flips this dynamic. Instead of carefully crafted PR, the boutique takes the narrative into its own hands, turning observation into playful critique. It's a reminder that public perception is never fully controllable, no matter how strategic one's image may be. The public's reaction to the label was immediate and intense. On social media, people debated its fairness, accuracy, and humor. Supporters defended Meghan, arguing that diva was an unfair stereotype and that her lifestyle reflected privacy and independence rather than arrogance. Critics, however, embraced the term, suggesting it captured a reality that tabloids and online commentators had long discussed but never distilled so neatly. The debate became part of the display's impact, reinforcing Kitson's intention to provoke thought, spark conversation, and make people question how narratives about public figures are constructed. Kitson's designers also layered visual cues alongside the label to deepen its resonance. The bold, capitalized font of Montecito Diva contrasted with the soft, festive imagery surrounding Meghan, creating tension and drawing the eye. The tilt of the Santa hat, the positioning of her gaze, and the placement of ornaments all contributed to a narrative that went beyond words. Together, these elements told a story of contrast: public cheer versus private image, celebrity branding versus authenticity, admiration versus scrutiny. The label also connected to broader cultural conversations about fame and privilege. Montecito represents a kind of elite exclusivity, a lifestyle that is aspirational, controversial, and intensely scrutinized. By labeling Meghan a diva within this context, Kitson highlighted not just her personal choices, but the dynamics of celebrity culture itself, how visibility, wealth, and influence create a set of expectations that are often impossible to meet, and how the public reacts when those expectations appear misaligned. Interestingly, some insiders noted that Montecito Diva could be interpreted on multiple levels. To casual viewers, it might seem humorous, almost playful. To cultural commentators, it spoke to the contradictions of modern fame, how public image, personal brand, and private life interact in complex ways. And to media-savvy audiences, it reflected an awareness of narrative control. The boutique was taking a calculated risk, turning observation into social commentary, and capturing attention in the process. Even within Kitson, the choice sparked internal discussions. Designers debated the risk of overexposure. Would the label be too pointed, too critical, or too viral for comfort? Ultimately, the consensus was that the phrase struck the perfect balance: memorable, provocative, and visually striking. And in true Kitson fashion, they leaned into the risk. The effectiveness of the label became evident almost immediately. Photos of Meghan's mock magazine cover circulated online, with Montecito Diva highlighted, shared, and discussed. Hashtags formed, discussions ignited, and the boutique achieved a rare cultural impact. The creation of a symbolic phrase tied to a public figure, immediately recognizable, instantly evocative, and endlessly debatable. But here's the subtle genius. The label didn't just critique Meghan. It invited reflection. It asked viewers to consider the broader implications of celebrity culture, privilege, and public scrutiny. What does it mean to be a diva in Montecito? Is it a lifestyle choice, a media narrative, or a reflection of public perception? Kitson left that question open, allowing audiences to interpret, argue, and engage. And yet, despite the widespread discussion, there was an element many people missed. Kitson embedded small visual cues around the label. Subtle references to media stories, interviews, and public appearances that added layers of meaning. Only attentive viewers noticed these details, but they elevated the label from a catchy phrase to a nuanced commentary on fame, narrative, and contradiction. By the time the public truly engaged with Montecito Diva, Kitson had already accomplished something remarkable. They had taken two words, paired them with a carefully crafted image, and created a cultural moment. When the doors of Kitson's 2025 Holiday Hypocrisy Gallery opened, the reaction was immediate, intense, and unpredictable. Meghan Markle, already a figure of global fascination, now faced a new type of public scrutiny, one that combined satire, visual storytelling, and a carefully crafted label: Montecito Diva. The gallery had succeeded in attracting attention, but no one could have anticipated just how quickly the display would ignite conversation across Los Angeles, social media, and international media outlets. It began on the streets. Tourists, local shoppers, and passers-by stopped in their tracks. Phones emerged. People snapped photos from multiple angles, zooming in on the mock magazine cover, the tilt of Meghan's Santa hat, and the bold lettering of Montecito Diva. Some laughed, sharing the image with playful captions. Others whispered critiques, debating whether the display was fair or harsh. Within minutes, Kitson's windows became a live commentary on celebrity culture, and Meghan Markle, as intended, was the focal point. Online, the frenzy escalated. Photos spread across Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, accompanied by hashtags like hashtag Montecito Diva, hashtag Holiday Hypocrisy, and hashtag Kitson Christmas. Influencers weighed in with opinions, some humorous, some critical. Memes proliferated. One showed Meghan's Santa hat photoshopped onto famous fictional divas, while another juxtaposed the mock magazine cover with historical holiday imagery, highlighting the irony. The rapid spread demonstrated the power of symbolism in a hyper-connected digital age. Media outlets didn't waste time either. Local Los Angeles papers ran photos of the display alongside headlines designed to provoke curiosity. Meghan Markle labeled Montecito Diva in Kitson holiday display and Santa hat scandal. Kitson targets Duchess of Sussex in holiday satire. National and international media quickly followed, framing the story as part of ongoing discussions about celebrity, image management, and public scrutiny. Talk shows debated the display, late-night hosts referenced it in comedic monologues, and commentary columns dissected the irony and symbolism. Public reactions were varied and emotionally charged. Some fans of Meghan expressed outrage, viewing the label as a cruel stereotype that misrepresented her character and philanthropic work. Comments appeared across social media defending her, emphasizing her humanitarian efforts, and arguing that the display was unnecessarily harsh. Supporters claimed that diva is a loaded term, often used to diminish women in power, and that combining it with Montecito exaggerated a perception of extravagance unfairly. Meanwhile, critics embraced the label as an accurate reflection of what they perceived as contradictions in Meghan's public persona. Some argued that her move to Montecito symbolized a lifestyle of exclusivity inconsistent with her previous messaging about accessibility, equality, and relatability. Others highlighted high-profile media appearances, interviews, and entrepreneurial ventures, suggesting that the label Montecito Diva perfectly captured the tension between her public image and perceived reality. Social media discussions intensified when video footage emerged showing people interacting with the display. Tourists mimicked the pose, journalists interviewed bystanders, and influencers shared their reactions in short, engaging clips. The footage was reposted across platforms, creating a feedback loop. The display generated discussion, which generated online content, which in turn drove more people to see the window in person. Kitson's gallery had become a viral moment in real time. Yet the frenzy didn't stop at humor or critique. It also sparked cultural conversations about celebrity scrutiny, privilege, and the power of satire. Commentators asked, what does it mean to label someone a diva in a public holiday display? How much of this is commentary on Meghan herself versus commentary on celebrity culture at large? Kitson had successfully provoked audiences to consider the dynamics of fame, image control, and public perception. Even Hollywood insiders took notice. Industry analysts speculated on whether Meghan's PR team would respond, whether this would affect her public image, or whether the display would become a talking point at future events. Some insiders argued that the gallery reinforced narratives already circulating in tabloids, while others suggested it offered a humorous, harmless critique in line with Kitson's tradition. The debate itself became part of the spectacle. One of the most striking aspects of the reaction was its speed. Within hours, Montecito Diva was trending online. Articles appeared in international publications, commentary threads multiplied, and TikTok users created short videos dissecting the symbolism. What began as a local art display had transformed into a global talking point. Meghan Markle, intentionally or not, was again at the center of public attention. But this time, the narrative was framed by satire rather than an interview or philanthropic initiative. Interestingly, some reactions highlighted contradictions in the public's perception. Supporters criticized the display as unfair, yet engaged with it online, sharing screenshots and memes. Critics praised the cleverness of Kitson's approach, yet questioned whether targeting Meghan during the holidays was appropriate. These paradoxical responses demonstrated the complexity of celebrity culture. Every statement, image, or satire generates multiple interpretations, each layered with emotion, bias, and expectation. Meanwhile, Kitson's team observed the reactions with fascination. They had anticipated debate, but the scale exceeded expectations. Comments ranged from playful amusement to serious analysis, with the boutique's Instagram and Twitter accounts flooded with engagement. Staff members noted that people were not only discussing the display, but also reflecting on broader issues: authenticity, privilege, media scrutiny, and the nature of public persona. In this sense, Kitson had succeeded beyond mere satire. They had sparked a multi-layered conversation. However, not all responses were online. Local residents and visitors to Robertson Boulevard engaged directly. Some posed in front of Meghan's image, holding props or mimicking her pose. Others staged mock interviews, filming reactions to the display and sharing them widely. The boutique's window had become a stage for public performance, a communal space where interpretation, humor, and critique merged. As media coverage continued, discussions began to consider potential consequences for Meghan herself. Would her team issue a statement? Would she address the display publicly or privately? Would it influence her image management strategy, media appearances, or public engagements? The questions lingered, adding tension to what might otherwise have been a light-hearted holiday satire. And then came the unexpected twist. A few journalists reported that Kitson had embedded subtle Easter eggs within the display. References to media stories, interviews, and lifestyle choices that only careful observers would notice. These hidden details elevated the gallery from mere satire to layered commentary, rewarding attentive viewers and creating another layer of public discussion. Suddenly, the display was no longer just a visual joke. It was a statement, a cultural critique, and a reflection of media narratives. In the midst of this frenzy, one truth became clear. A simple window display, a Santa hat, and a two-word label had ignited an unprecedented level of public discourse. Meghan Markle's image was dissected, discussed, and debated across multiple platforms, and the cultural impact was undeniable. Kitson had managed to take local art and turn it into a global phenomenon, all without a single press release or orchestrated media campaign. Yet, even with all the attention, the most surprising reaction was still to come. Hidden within the gallery, subtle details and nuanced commentary were waiting to be noticed. Observers who looked closely would uncover layers of meaning that even viral photos couldn't fully capture, insights that challenged assumptions, questioned narratives, and hinted at a deeper cultural critique. Behind every viral moment, every clever display, and every public debate, there is strategy. Kitson's 2025 Holiday Hypocrisy Gallery was no exception. While the public saw a mock magazine cover, a Santa hat, and the bold words Montecito Diva, insiders knew that what appeared spontaneous was, in fact, the result of meticulous planning, research, and an acute understanding of celebrity culture. Sources close to Kitson described the boutique's creative process as both analytical and artistic. Each year, the team identifies individuals whose public personas contain contradictions, inconsistencies, or noteworthy contrasts. People who embody what Kitson calls narrative resonance. Meghan Markle, in 2025, was the epitome of that resonance. From her royal past to Hollywood ventures, from global interviews to philanthropic initiatives, her public narrative provided layers of meaning ripe for commentary. Designers, stylists, and consultants convened months before the gallery's unveiling. Sketches were drafted, color schemes debated, and typography carefully considered. Every element of the display, from the tilt of Meghan's Santa hat to the choice of font for Montecito Diva, was intentional. According to insiders, the team aimed for maximum visual impact while maintaining subtlety and sophistication, ensuring that casual observers and cultural critics alike would engage with the display on multiple levels. The creative team also employed a unique approach to storytelling. Instead of simply mocking celebrities, Kitson's strategy involved constructing a narrative arc within the gallery. Each figure is placed deliberately, creating relationships between displays that highlight thematic connections, contradictions in messaging, lifestyle choices, and public perception. Meghan's central placement was strategic. She anchors the story, drawing viewers in before they notice the surrounding elements. It's a visual essay on celebrity culture, made accessible through humor and festive spectacle. Insiders reveal that Kitson also considered public psychology when designing the display. Humans are naturally drawn to contrast, irony, and narrative tension. By pairing Meghan's polished image with a playful but critical label, the boutique tapped into these psychological triggers. Observers were compelled to stop, look, and discuss. Even the smallest details, shadows on the Santa hat, the tilt of the head, the angle of the gaze, were intended to provoke subtle emotional responses. The boutique's research process is thorough. Analysts review past media coverage, social media interactions, interviews, and public appearances. For Meghan, this meant examining everything from royal engagements to Netflix productions, from charitable endeavors to magazine covers. The goal is to identify patterns and contradictions that resonate with public perception. Once these insights are gathered, they inform design choices, captions, props, and the overall narrative flow. Interestingly, Kitson views critique as a form of engagement rather than attack. According to a senior designer, we're not here to destroy reputations. Our goal is to create conversation, reflection, and curiosity. If people stop and think, if they question the narratives they've accepted, then we've done our job. In Meghan's case, the display became a mirror reflecting broader societal conversations about celebrity, privilege, and authenticity. Timing, too, is a crucial element of Kitson's strategy. The holiday season provides the perfect context for commentary. The juxtaposition of festive imagery with critique amplifies impact. Labeling someone a villain during a season associated with generosity, kindness, and goodwill creates tension that draws attention, sparks debate, and ensures visibility. Kitson has leveraged this timing for years, and in 2025, it proved more effective than ever. Insiders also note that Kitson anticipates public reaction at multiple levels. Casual viewers, social media users, journalists, and celebrity insiders are all part of the audience. Each layer of observation is considered during design. What will tourists notice? What will commentators highlight? How will fans react? By predicting reactions, Kitson ensures that the display resonates across demographics, media platforms, and cultural conversations. The boutique's bold approach relies on risk-taking. Designers acknowledge that the gallery's success depends on walking a fine line between satire and offense. Too subtle, and the display fails to capture attention. Too aggressive, and it risks backlash. Meghan's Santa hat and the Montecito Diva label exemplify this balance. Playful enough to invite laughter, incisive enough to provoke debate. Another strategic element is the layering of hidden messages. Kitson embeds subtle references to media coverage, interviews, and lifestyle choices that reward attentive viewers. These Easter eggs create depth, encouraging repeat visits, social media sharing, and prolonged engagement. The public may initially respond to the humor of the Santa hat, but careful observers uncover additional meaning, extending the gallery's impact far beyond initial impressions. Kitson's team also monitors engagement in real time. During the first days of the display, staff track social media posts, online articles, and foot traffic. They observe which elements capture attention, which generate conversation, and which provoke strong emotional responses. Insights gathered inform future iterations of the gallery, ensuring that each year builds on the previous one while remaining fresh, provocative, and culturally relevant. The boutique's approach demonstrates a keen understanding of celebrity culture. Public figures, especially those as high-profile as Meghan Markle, operate in a world of constant scrutiny. Kitson leverages this scrutiny by creating visual narratives that provoke reflection and discussion. The gallery does not merely mock. It contextualizes, analyzes, and amplifies conversations already occurring in the public sphere. Perhaps most notably, Kitson's strategy reveals the power of symbolism. A Santa hat, 2 words, and a carefully crafted image can spark a viral moment, dominate headlines, and generate sustained discussion. For Meghan, it meant being placed at the center of a cultural moment she could not fully control, a reminder that even in a meticulously managed public life, narratives can shift rapidly, and symbols can carry weight far beyond their apparent simplicity. Yet, despite all the planning, research, and anticipation, there remained one unpredictable element: public interpretation. Kitson could control design, timing, and messaging, but how people would engage and how the conversation would evolve was ultimately uncontrollable. That uncertainty, insiders admit, is part of the thrill and power of the gallery. It transforms a static display into a living conversation, constantly reshaped by the public, media, and cultural discourse. And just when it seemed the strategy had reached its peak, an unexpected twist emerged. Subtle cues in the display, initially overlooked, began to surface in online conversations. Observers noticed references to Meghan's past statements, lifestyle choices, and media appearances embedded in visual details. The discovery added new layers of meaning, reigniting discussion and elevating the display from viral spectacle to cultural critique. At first glance, Kitson's 2025 Holiday Hypocrisy Gallery appears simple: a mock magazine cover, a Santa hat, the bold label Montecito Diva. Casual passers-by might see humor, irony, or lighthearted satire. But for those who looked closer, the display revealed layers of hidden symbolism, subtle cues, and visual commentary, carefully designed to reward attention, spark curiosity, and provoke reflection. Meghan Markle's portrayal was central to this intricate visual narrative. The idea of embedding hidden messages in public displays is not new, but Kitson has refined it into an art form. According to insiders, every year, the boutique selects symbols that communicate meaning beyond the obvious. In 2025, the designers treated Meghan's image as a canvas for multi-layered storytelling, using props, typography, color, and placement to create a subtle dialogue between viewer and subject. One of the most notable aspects of the display was the Santa hat itself. Beyond the humor of the Montecito Diva label, the hat's tilt, shadow, and positioning conveyed a story. The slight forward tilt suggested assertiveness, perhaps even subtle defiance, hinting at the public perception of Meghan as unapologetically confident. Meanwhile, shadows cast across the hat's trim mirrored themes of duality, the gap between public persona and private reality, inviting observers to question what lies beneath the polished image. Even the font used for Montecito Diva was symbolic. Bold, angular, and capitalized, it projected authority and visibility, reflecting the scrutiny Meghan faces in every public appearance. Designers described it as a visual representation of power, influence, and attention, contrasting with the soft, festive environment of the holiday display. The tension between typography and imagery created a subconscious layer of meaning. That celebrity scrutiny is relentless, unavoidable, and inescapable. Further symbolism appeared in the background. Glittering ornaments and twinkling lights are traditional holiday decor, signifying joy, generosity, and celebration. Yet here, they served as contrast. The festive elements framed Meghan in a way that emphasized irony. A public figure, often associated with philanthropy and social causes, placed amid glimmering excess, labeled a diva. The interplay of light, color, and contrast invited viewers to reflect on the complexity of celebrity culture. Props around the display were chosen with precision. Some reflected past media narratives, magazine clippings referencing interviews, subtle references to charity initiatives, or newspaper headlines carefully positioned to interact with the viewer's gaze. These Easter eggs were not immediately obvious, but rewarded careful observation. Those who noticed them would gain insight into the commentary Kitson was making about media coverage, public perception, and the curated nature of celebrity storytelling. Another hidden element was the positioning of Meghan's gaze. Designers intentionally chose an angle that seemed both engaging and elusive. Her eyes directed attention outward, inviting interaction, yet suggested a subtle detachment. A visual metaphor for the scrutiny she experiences and the distance between public perception and private reality. Observers interpreted this in multiple ways. Some saw confidence, others perceived aloofness, and many recognized the intentional ambiguity. Even the color palette carried symbolic weight. Red, a dominant shade in the Santa hat and accents, traditionally represents festivity, warmth, and energy. But red also symbolizes power, passion, and visibility. All themes tied to Meghan's public image. White trim, typically a sign of purity and innocence, contrasted with the bold critique, creating tension and reinforcing the duality